Welcome to News 9 Live, and you are watching On Point with me, and I have 9 on points and 9 stories on the show. And let me begin with the first on point. Is there an international Khan market gang as mentioned by Foreign Affairs Minister Jaishankar? Is it different from the domestic Khan market gang? How did Khan market acquire this reputation? Is it a problem or simply a political bub? Is there an international Khan market gang? Why did the foreign minister make this comment? The entire world is looking at the Indian election with keen eyes. Every Lok Sabha election is complex and interesting, but the Lok Sabha election of 2024 is unique. The result would be important for both India and the world. If BJP wins, Modi will create history. He will become the second Prime Minister after Jawaharlal Nehru to win 3 terms, one after another. For Congress, loss would be immense. Though it lost 3 Lok Sabha elections between 1996 and 2004, the magnitude of defeat was not big. But before we deep dive into this issue, let me play out the bite of the Foreign Affairs Minister Jaishankar on this so-called international Khan market gang.
Western media. Why are they doing it? No, let's be fair. Not all of them. Many of them. Okay. See, there is in the country today, there is a certain, I would say, thought process or entitlement process, which I think that metaphor Khan market gang is a very good description of them. Okay. Now, you may or may not realize it. I want to tell you there's an international Khan market gang as well. These are people who are sort of linked, to the entitled people out here. They are socially comfortable with them. They know them. They feel like them. They advance similar viewpoints. They are essentially a kind of a elitist left-lib thought process.
So there's a symbiotic relationship between the two.
So I think when the sales are down in the domestic Khan market, the international Khan market gang feels, look, I need to pep up these guys and give them support. And you can actually see that. You can actually see which stories they play up, how do they slant things. They, in fact, in previous elections, perhaps even in this one, they have actually openly endorsed parties. They have openly endorsed leaders and openly said that, this party or this leader is bad for India. This election influence, certainly. Depending on how strongly you take it, I think you have a point there. And it's not just them. There's it's a press, university, think tank. So, in some cases, maybe some degree of officialdom at some kind of medium level, because the guys up there are very smart. They don't get into this. So there is, a very clear attempt being made, a very persistent attempt being made to actually influence the direction of Indian politics and the choices of the Indian voter. It peaks at election time, but it continues even after that. All these rankings that you get, what do you think they are? They're all an attempt to demoralize you, delegitimize you, to kind of shape, all these things are wrong with India because India is going to give them a result they don't like.
So what is the international Khan market gang? Is the global left conspiring against BJP? A large section of the Western media has reported on the elections, and many of them predict a doomsday scenario if Prime Minister Modi wins a 3rd term. Is it an anti-India agenda or an anti-Modi agenda? This segment is divided into multiple parts, and let me introduce my guests: Rami Niranjan Desai, author and political analyst; Ajit K. Jha, senior journalist; and Jayanto Bhattacharya, senior journalist. And I'm joined by Brijesh Pandey, input editor of the News9 Live Connect is with me. Rami, I'll begin with you. The bite of Foreign Affairs Minister Jaishankar had two parts. It's like a lot of people had come to terms with the Khan market gang, and now you have international Khan market gang to deal with.
Absolutely. Good evening, Karthikeya. Good evening, Brajesh. Absolutely. This is a great topic that you've picked up because, we've all seen it develop since 2014. But let me, if allowed, let me just widen the definition of this Khan market gang, because we all have this understanding of it. To me, the Khan market gang, Karthikeya, really referred to the elite media persons that were self-proclaimed free speech enthusiasts, but only when it suited them. They claimed to be the flag bearers of liberal Western values, and those values were only extended to you if you belonged to the same class as them. They thrived on poverty politics, Karthikeya, because that's what set them apart from the rest of the country, from the rest of us, because they saw themselves as an extension of their Western colonial masters, and anyone who asserted their Indian identity was at odds with their modern values. Now, these values that we speak about, the modern Western values, were stemmed from the idea that the West was modern and anything being Indian was regressive, backward, and something that we should be ashamed of. Technically, they were the brown sahibs of independent India. Now, the problem is, Karthikeya, that ever since the dispensation change in India in 2014, wherein you saw a reclamation of pride, or in those who believed in the centrality of Indian values, or, that were not Western, the assertion of Indianness in all aspects, that was best suited for us to be able to shun, colonial ideas, decolonize our minds. The Khan market gang lost their positions of pride. They lost their positions in elite society and the expensive cup of coffee at Khan market, so as to say. Now, this media and public intellectual gang, which was largely self-proclaimed and whose membership was really as difficult as, getting into any really fancy club, wherein you had to give the credentials of your parents, your grandparents, your social circles, didn't know what to do. Now, because we were the plebs, we were the plebeians, and we were in their spaces, they could not tolerate it. So what did they do? They ran to their Western colonial masters in the hope that, these select dubious Western media outlets, and like, the EAM said, they're not all of them, but they're a select, bunch of media outlets, so that they could be brought in and they could point their white racist little fingers at us Indians and say, well, bad children, how dare you, assert your own identity? How dare you try to displace the order that we have left for you? And hence this international Khan market gang came into being. Now, the hypocrisy of it is, just give me, one more minute. The hypocrisy of it is very well known, Karthikeya. The sheer targeting that we have to bear over and over again. One known repeat offender media outlet said in hosting Modi, Biden pushes democracy concerns to the background. This is all being said while the biggest democratic exercise in the world is going on. So I really think, this is an interconnected gang, and, it's founded on this hypocrisy that is specifically targeting the government because it asserts the Indian identity and nothing more, nothing less.
Okay, very quickly, is it about the elites, or is it about the Western media, or is it about the perception that the BJP has been trying to correct, that, yes, if they believe in Hindutva, but it doesn't mean that, they are tinkering with the constitution?
Well, I think, when anybody from Western media comes in, it comes with not all of them, but most of them come with a jaundiced mindset. When we interact, during elections and all, the way they would want to pontificate, the way they want to tell you that this is their impression, this is how they feel that this country is functioning. And if you ask them a counter question about what is happening in their country, you find them very surprised that you actually feel yourself that you're fit enough to question them back on there. There have been a couple of shows also, Kartike, where there was a lot of talk about India's position in vis-a-vis the Russia-Ukraine war. But when you start countering them, saying what exactly your country is doing, they're very puzzled. So this duplicity, this hypocrisy is definitely there, and lack of access, lack of how they felt that a government should be is also a big reason why we get a biased
let me put the other side of the picture. It's not that the entire West is against Prime Minister Modi or External Affairs Minister Jaishankar, the politics of Bharatiya Janata Party. There are people who have been speaking in favor of BJP or BJP as a governing party of this country. They have also called in elections for the ruling party. Let me play out this bite.
Prediction for elections for Eurasia Group is 305 seats, plus or minus 10. So really not much of a change from what we saw 5 years ago. Consistency, stability. Internationally, not just from a U.S. perspective, but from the perspective of the rest of the world, this is an economy that has underperformed for a long time, but is now doing a lot better. This is also a country that was very inward focused for a long time, just this region, now becoming much more of a global leader, but in a friendly way with the global south and with the west, trying to build bridges. That's largely considered quite positive. Well, there's a lot more willingness to take India as a place that you want to do business over the long term. In India, you talk about this as China plus one. In the United States, it's friend-shoring, it's de-risking, it's near-shoring. But either way, India is one of the countries in the world that a lot of companies are paying a lot more attention to because they see it as stable, it is democratic, it's soon going to be the third largest economy in the world over the next 5 years. All of these things are positive, as well as consistent leadership over what is likely to be 15 years.
Not only this, but there is also a notable, albeit small section of the Western media that have called out their counterparts for biased reporting when it comes to India. Yes, biased reporting when it comes to India. And I have a quote graphic of Chris Blackburn, a British political analyst. The editorials of this nature hinder the work of the foreign press in India. Collectively, foreign correspondents should express their concern to the Guardian, asking them to refrain from biased reporting, tell them to put a sock in it. There are also media houses in the West that take a keen interest in Indian elections and represent a more balanced, nuanced and positive view of democracy and elections in India, like the Daily Express. Some voices within international media highlight the West's hypocrisy when it comes to reportage of our country. This is best seen in Western response to pro-Gaza protests. And I'm saying this, it was very, very evident. Pro-Gaza student protest where force was used to quell the dissent, and it was justified by terming the protesters as anti-Semitic and professional agitators. The state action was justified on the grounds of maintaining public order. Contrast this with the coverage of JNU protests by the same media and state action against those protests which were pro-anti-India elements, and was treated as stifling of freedom of speech and dissent. Prime Minister Modi has also spoken on this issue. Let's listen into him.
आपने कांग्रेस का दौर देखा है जब एक कमजोर सरकार देश में हुआ करती थी। उस समय पाकिस्तान हमारे सिर पर चढ़ करके नाचता था। कांग्रेस की कमजोर सरकार दुनिया में गुहार लगाती फिरती थी। मोदी ने कहा, भारत अब दुनिया के पास भीख नहीं मांगेगा, भारत अपनी लड़ाई खुद लड़ेगा। और फिर भारत ने घर में घुस करके मारा।
But it is not the first time such voices were raised. Indira Gandhi, yes, Indira Gandhi used to regularly raise the issue of foreign hand. She in fact blamed riots in Muradabad on foreign hands and as an attempt to spoil relations with friendly Arab nations. And yes, so the issue of foreign hand or the foreign countries or foreign interests having an impact on our nation is a debate that is not new. But the fact when the foreign affairs minister says that there's an international Khan market gang which is targeting Prime Minister Modi, it means a lot. He's not a professional politician. Jaishankar has been the foreign secretary of this country, has assignments in Washington and Beijing, and is now the cabinet minister, pivoting Modi's foreign policy. So Ajit, let me come to you on this. So when he says that Modi versus international Khan market gang, is it pure play politics for the polls, where the Modi is projected as a person who's being pitched against the entire vested interest abroad and in India? And secondly, I would say it could have been Khanna market gang, Vasant Kunj market gang, Sarojini Nagar gang. It has come down to Khan market gang. Why?
See, Karthikeya, there are 2 points here. One, according to me, the whole Khan market gang, international Khan market gang, is basically a euphemism for left liberal media, left liberal opinion in the West as well as in India. Prime Minister Modi and the NDA government is basically a conservative, let's say on the liberal conservative dichotomy, it's a conservative government, right? So therefore, newspapers like New York Times, George Soros, for example, George Soros Foundation, and several universities, the left liberal universities especially, not Chicago but Harvard, not Stanford but Berkeley. So the left liberal forces in America, newspapers like Guardian, for example, in fact, you were quoting one of them right now, this is generally critical of Prime Minister Modi. They are also critical of former President Trump. They are also critical of Rishi Sunak because he's a conservative. So this is basically a left liberal media which has a dominant position both in the US and England and in Europe as well, right? They are very critical from the very beginning. Now, there is another point here which should not be lost, which is that the West, not from today, but ever since I was a student in the West, or even before that, let's say, as you pointed out, during Indira Gandhi's time, the whole development model that was taught, the modernization theory that was taught in the universities, obviously saw the world in terms of the West versus the rest. They have argued, in fact, one of the very famous economic historians in the West argued that there were 6 acts of Western, what we call colonialism.
Ajit, do you think that the foreign press has been unfair to Modi?
They are critical of Modi. They do not understand the rise of Modi. They do not understand the evolution of Hindutva. In that sense, I think they do become sort of what I would say unfair to Modi. They do not understand the popularity of Modi in the same sense that the left liberal intelligentsia in India does as well.
Or is it, or Jayanto, let me introduce Jayanto. Jayanto has been patiently waiting. Jayanto, or it's because of the fact that something fundamental has changed in Indian politics, which the Western press has not been able to keep its finger on.
Yes, indeed. That is the point, Karthikeya. And that is what exactly I was thinking when I was listening to the conversation. But first, these particular terms, for the last about a decade, well, less than a decade, I think it's about 5 or 6 years, that we have been hearing such terms. Tukre gang, urban Naxal, Khan market gang. These are euphemism, or we can say certain words that very aptly and in very short describes people, their mindset, and what you have. Here, this particular thing, as you rightly pointed out, is about the elitist left liberal gang who kind of thought that they are writing, they are the Bhagya Vidatas in some way or the other. But as you rightly asked me this question, if you see that previously we have seen the government, they were not so aggressive. There have been earlier also, there have been bouquets and brickbats, but the brickbats were not this way. It was never being taken, or kind of, repartee was there. Now, if you see the new government that has come in, I'll give you one example, rather two examples. If you see the G20, we held the G20 when India was the president in the presidency. If you see that the declaration there, it regarding the Russia-Ukraine the war, the sentence was changed. If you see Bali declaration and the Delhi declaration, it was changed and it was done at the behest of India and the Indian Prime Minister. So wherein you see G20, now of course there are others also, the European Union is of course is there, and the other countries, the African countries have also been included, but let's call it the G20 still. They all agreed to call it the war in Ukraine. It did not mention, which we see in the US about, or the Europe saying that Russian aggression. So here is one country that is kind of dictating what the other leaders will give a joint declaration and what will be there. It's like either you take it or leave it. So now that answer to all these big bats that was not there, that has been taken up. Now here in this particular incident, if you see, just a few days back, there was this report, I think in the New York Times, about the government and about the minorities. And this was raised even in the US State Department during the briefing, wherein the spokesperson, he did not give that kind of an answer. He just said that, yes, we are in favor of human rights and equality and stuff like that. We have seen Germany also saying things which were not accepted. So yes, I agree with you that the question you asked me, it is about the right now, about the policy and the particular government who's trying to tell the world that, yes, we have arrived, we are here, and you have to listen to us. Not only you cannot get away, but by just showing the bricks.
So Rami, is it also because of the fact that, you know, the so-called international Khan market gang, you know, which can be academicians, which can be an interest bloc, or which can be, I believe that left and liberal are two different things, but, you know, people club it together, or the left politics, they see the rise of Bharatiya Janata Party under Narendra Modi as an aberration.
Absolutely, absolutely, Kartikeya, I have to agree with you that the problem is that, obviously, as you mentioned, that Indira Gandhi had also brought this up. But, at that time, the media wasn't, as wide as it is today. We didn't have social media. And with Indira Gandhi, the situation was very different. She was a woman who was asserting India's identity in the international forum. But with Modi, what has happened is it is the Indian identity that is being asserted, and that seems to be problematic for them to the extent that, you asked the previous panelist, is this a problem? Has the international media been unfair with this present dispensation, the Modi-led government? And the answer is yes, absolutely yes. There was, I remember during the CEA protests that were happening, there was an article in The Guardian by, again, a repeat offender of a journalist who sits in India, talks about how democracy is being stifled while writing complete lies. She said, the CAA is not just going to impact Muslim population in India, but particularly Muslim women populations, because they comparatively have less documentation. Now, nothing could have been more a vicious translation of the CAA. It means that it doesn't mean that she hasn't read it. It means that at any cost they are willing to defame this government, and their problem particularly lies with this government. So I think this is something that we have to accept. And however, having said that, I don't think that in larger matters there is that much of an influence left of these media.
Or has life come a full circle? I'll be very blunt. And this question is for you, Brijesh. Has life come a full circle that there used to, I was in school, so anyone, had a different point of view, people would say, "Arey, ye to Sanghi hai." So, today the life has come a full circle. If anyone, differs from you, he belongs to the Khan market gang.
Well, I think, if you ask me about what Jaishankar said about, Western media and most of the Western media being, being biased in their coverage, I would agree. But there's also another aspect to it, that the government, when it comes to criticism, displays far thin skin rather than thick skin, which, usually governments were. The term Khan market was coined for that. It's not like, that the first time any government is being panned. I agree that, that Modi government, and when I say this government, I mean specifically Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and he has been panned for a very long time, like, ever since he became the Gujarat Chief Minister, Godhra, and so on and so forth. So post that, he has been under microscopic gaze. And I think this is where the problem lies, that, that when it comes to a certain issue, you also get afflicted by what has happened in the past, and you use that to kind of trying to see what is happening right now. But there is also no denying that the government is far more thin-skinned when it comes to dealing with criticism. I mean, usually what we have seen otherwise, that you could actually question and, without getting labeled or like, being cut off from your, from complete access to the government or a particular ministry if you write articles which are inimical or with the minister doesn't like you to criticize. So there are two sides of the coin. Yes, Western media is biased when it comes to coverage because they don't understand the kind of, the democracy that is being practiced, the kind of values and ethos which are there. There are people still who say, openly what they have to say. I mean, you always have to bear the brunt of speaking truth to the power, but it is not as bad as many would project. But yes, thin-skinned, I completely, I have to say this, that this is the reason why, this Khan market euphemism came out to the fore.
Khan market euphemism came out to the fore. Ajit, one thing is thin to the criticism, another thing is Modi being perceived in a particular way, but there is another aspect to it, that there is something called a permanent interest working against Modi, which is ideologically motivated. Do you think that that ideology is strong today? I mean, say adversary banne layak bhi hai nahi. I mean to say, does it? They don't even have government in West Bengal. They have government in Kerala, and it's tottering. Do you think that left ideology is very powerful? Is left the problem or the liberal opinion? I'm nuancing both of them for you. Both have different meanings, both the words.
See, in America, classically, there is no left party, right? America never had a communist party. So in America, the liberals are the left. In England, the liberals are liberals and the left are the commies, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So let me make that distinction clear. Having said that, let me point out a couple of paradoxes here. India has never been closer to the West as it is under Prime Minister Modi. In fact, take all the Western powers, take the entire of Western Europe, take the US, Canada is perhaps the only exception, and that also recently because of a spat. Take Australia, even Japan and the rest of the world, they are gloating on India, not only economically, but for stability, for continuity, for several of the issues, right? So what I'm saying is, let's not mistake the left liberal establishment in the West as the picture of India in the West. Wall Street Journal, I read almost every day, gloating reviews of Mr. Modi and his achievements. Same thing with, for example, Times London or Telegraph or Financial Times London. So it's not that somehow we target George Soros and New York Times because New York Times is a very influential paper. Chicago, Stanford, these are conservative universities. You have great professors working on even.
But Ajit, there is also one thing. The Christian symbols, the Christians say is very strong in American politics, but it's never mentioned. Where does the incumbent president go? Which dinner does he go to? After taking the oath, what symbols does he adhere to, or who is the sovereign in UK? What are the symbols used in United Kingdom? They are wedded to the culture and they are wedded to the religion. But in India, any display of religion becomes a mark of majoritarianism, and that's how it's perceived to be. It's like a Orientalism, and any Arab has to be ill-tempered. And any Hindu displaying some sort of religiosity has to be a right-winger. I'm really falling off short of time, but Jayanto, okay.
30 seconds.
Yeah, okay.
If I can just take 30 seconds. President Obama started his politics from the Church of Chicago, right? Moral majority is a very big influential factor in Republican politics.
Absolutely.
So it's not true that religion doesn't play a big role. The other point I wanted to make, Diane Eck, the professor of theology, philosophy at Harvard, one of the most sort of famous professors in the entire of West, she actually writes on Varanasi. She writes on the sacred space. She writes from the sacred geography. And if you should read her, The Pilgrim's India, nationalism defined from that perspective. So what I'm saying is, in the West, you have both the sides. Somehow, because of New York Times.
I understand what you're saying, that you have secularization of public space, but it does not mean that the religion or the religion/cultural influence in America is weak. The return of Trump is assertion of the middle America, which is deeply religious. Jayanto, the last question is reserved for you. In the context of international Khan market gang, do you think it has political resonance? Because I didn't find a lot of resonance after that. First time when he used the word Khan market gang, it had a lot of resonance. This time in international Khan market gang, there wasn't much resonance.
Two things over here, Karthikeya. Number one, you have to remember, it was not the bureaucrat Jaishankar who was speaking. It was the politician, the minister who has been speaking and who has been holding parleys, who has been meeting foreign dignitaries and his counterparts, and he is working out several deals. There are places that he has been going and working out equations that many of us may not be even aware, or some of us may be aware. So here we have to understand one thing, what it meant when it was coined, when it was used, I think around 2019. Since that time, it has been used. And as I mentioned in my earlier conversation, that there were other terms also, tukre gang, or urban Naxal. So all these words, they define something and they still hold. That we are talking about it, we are in conversation over this. It signifies that what it means. It still holds that same importance or that same weight that it did 5 years ago. So that is what I mean to say. One more thing I'll add here, that religion has been used in politics. We cannot say it was never been used. Whether you call them left, you call them liberal, but it has been used. We have seen it ourselves. But the nationalism, as it is being beholden, or as it is being seen, it is part of our lives. It was never there. So I can say in a way that now, right now, we are very...
I've fallen short of time. I can only say, it's not about the use of religion. Religion has always been part of politics and nationalism. Bankim Chandra Chatterjee's book is one example. Tilak organizing festivals in Maharashtra is another example. So religion being used in politics is one thing, but religious symbols being part of political discourse is 100 to 200 years old. There is no, I don't think there is any debate on that. It has been part and parcel of mobilization of people against the British colonizers. And I would only quote Mahatma Gandhi in end when he was talking about Ram Raj in 30s and 40s. That's what Ram Raj would usher. You can't be using more religious word in politics to understand what sort of country he thought we would make after 1947. So on this note, I'd like to say thank you to you, Jayanto, to Ajit and Rami, to make time, to come for this debate, because I think it really made sense to talk about when Foreign Minister Jaishankar said that there is indeed an international Khan market gang in which targets India in a way and paints all the Indians with the same brush. But don't go away. It's the time for the second on point. But after a short break, and then we'll be talking about illegal immigrants in Manipur.
I was ready to be a CEO at 26.